and advertisers.
Liberalism is back in style. Welcome to the evolution.
What if you knew Fox News was just lying to you? How could you watch when you know?
He was voted Variety Entertainer of the Year in the Excellence in the Arts Award. And is one of the highest Arbitrum, now Nielsen-rated talk radio hosts in Las Vegas. He is also a refreshing voice of logic and reason. Live from the entertainment capital of the world, Doug Basham.
And good morning, my fellow wokes and Republican jokes. Thanks for joining me today. My name is Doug Basham, and welcome to the Doug Basham Show right here on KSHP in Las Vegas and on social media, and to a genuine demonstration of excellence in broadcasting. Where am I? Oh, I'm hearing echo. Is that a good thing? We're doing a test here, folks. We decided to try something new at the beginning of the show. Not always the brightest idea, but there was no other place to try it. I'm doing something from home that Justin normally does from the station. And so far, well, we'll see how it goes. But anyhow, everybody, great to see you all again. I am Doug Basham, card-carrying member in good standing of the Enemy Within Brigade, also known as one sick radical leftist lunatic who needs to be handled by the American military and who should also be facing the barrels of 9 guns shooting at my face, according to the Tangerine Tyrant's latest violent rant. And we'll get to that in a bit. But can we now call him a fascist? My website is DougBasham.com, last name spelled B as in Bob, A-S-H-A-M as in Mary, DougBasham.com, my email, Doug@DougBasham.com. That said, I extend a warm welcome and a happy day after Halloween to those of you listening on KSHP, AM 1400 and 107.1 FM on your radio dial here in Las Vegas. We are also broadcasting on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, TikTok, and of course, Twitter/X. And just in case you've forgotten why Elon Musk changed the name of Twitter to X, it's so that Trump supporters would be able to spell it. Now, if you go to my website, again, DougBasham.com, you will discover it's all of one page. At the top, you'll see the show's logo. Underneath, 10 links, most of my social media sites, also one to contact me via email. Now, the 2 links I'd like to call your attention to the most are, 1, my YouTube page, and 2, my TikTok page. On my YouTube page, I would respectfully ask you hit the subscribe button. On TikTok, please hit the red follow button. Now, if you would like to watch the show live and not just listen to it, reason being, when I play clips, I don't play audio clips, I play video clips. From my website, you can go to either my YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter/X pages, whereupon you can watch the show live. And if I happen to violate YouTube policies and they suspend my show midstream, just go back to my website, again, DougBasham.com, then go to my Facebook or Twitter pages. And by the way, another reason to watch this show live, it will remove any doubt in your mind whatsoever why so many people have said over the years that this is a face for television. 221-7283 is our call-in number here at the station, folks. If you would like to talk on the radio somewhere in our second half hour together, that's 702-221-SAVE, as in Save Our Democracy, which is our ultimate and only goal in each and every show we do. And as the Venerable Joy Behar said recently on The View,
I mean, he's cost a lot. I think we should lock him up now.
Well, some of
I hope you all enjoyed your Halloween festivities, whatever they may have been. And I don't mind telling you, I made a goodly amount of money this Halloween season. I read like 3 months ago that the most popular costumes this year were going to be a clown, a pumpkin, and a dinosaur. So I capitalized on that news and started selling Donald Trump costumes, sold out many times over. And I must remind you, again, what Trump and pumpkins have in common. They're both orange, hollow on the inside, and should be thrown in the garbage in early November. I'm hearing that November 5th is the recommended disposal date. And I got to tell you, I always get Halloween and Valentine's Day mixed up. Why? Because they're essentially the same. They're both about candy and being something you're not. And have you seen the Saw movie franchise whereby victims are trapped in life-threatening situations where their will to survive is tested? Last Halloween, I held a Saw-themed party for my son and his friends. It featured 12 children locked in my basement, and I hid the Wi-Fi password inside one of the kids' stomachs. 11 of the kids enjoyed it. And you know what Jeffrey Epstein and Halloween decorations have in common? They don't hang themselves. And that was a joke. I don't buy into the Epstein conspiracy theories, especially when the Epstein conspiracy theorists started chanting it was the Clintons who did it, completely ignoring the fact, as they always do, that Donald Trump was president when Epstein died, and his handpicked Attorney General Bill Fubar was in charge of the Justice Department. Not to mention the flotilla of photos of Epstein and Trump together. None more nauseating than this one. And yes, I had to change the music. These clips came with music, but I didn't want to risk violating YouTube's precious policies. Well, at least back then, Trump wasn't doing his double jerk dance. And you know, every time I see that clip, I wonder what disgusting, depraved comment or suggestion did Trump say to an equally sick bastard like Jeffrey Epstein that made Epstein double over with laughter? I mean, how vile must it have been? Because if it had just been normal depravity, Epstein probably would have just nodded his head in agreement. And not to float another conspiracy theory, but you tell me who had more motivation to silence Jeffrey Epstein. But yeah, the Clintons somehow found a way to work around and get past Trump's government. And what? Kill Epstein and make it look like a suicide, all to help Trump keep his Epstein secrets hidden? Yeah, that's what happened. But back to Halloween, the beautiful lady upon whom I'm presently inflicting myself, she dressed as a policewoman last night, and she told me I was under arrest on suspicion of being great in bed. Yeah.
Yes! Yes! Oh, yeah! Can you feel that, buddy? Huh? Loser! Let's go, Ace. Loser.
Later last night, however, after we went to bed, after 2 minutes, all charges were dropped due to a lack of evidence. And for those who don't know, that last clip was the inimitable Jim Carrey, someone I had the pleasure of performing with as his opening act many years ago when he was doing his excellent impressionist act. But you know, I had another uncomfortable incident last night. One older kid, obviously a teenager, probably shouldn't have been trick-or-treating. He showed up at my door wearing nothing but his jeans. And I said, "What are you supposed to be?" And he said, "I'm a premature ejaculation." And I said, "How do you figure?" To which he first pointed at his jeans and then said, "I came in my pants." But later on, something nice happened that made up for that unfortunate occurrence. I was handing out candy. I was handing out candy. I'd run out of bottles of Tylenol by that point. And one very nice and polite young man showed up at my door, and he wasn't wearing a costume. He just had a sign that said, "I love ceilings." I asked him, "What are you supposed to be?" And you know what he said to me, Alex? He said, "I'm a ceiling fan." And I got to tell you, a ceiling fan. How creative is that? And that did it for me. I gave that kid the rest of my candy, locked my front gate, and turned my porch light off. All that said, can you believe it? Just 4 days to go. Early voting ends today here in Las Vegas and the rest of Nevada. And you know, as much as I'm looking forward to this being over, there's a part of me that wishes there was 3 more months. Because every time Tangerine Palpatine appears in public and speaks, he self-destructs even more. That said, we don't have 3 more months. We have 4 days. And again, early voting ends today here in Las Vegas and Nevada. And make no mistake, folks, the most important thing on this year's ballot is the grand experiment in self-governance itself and our very, very way of life. In short, our democracy. I dare say you know what your country commands of you. You know what your democracy demands of you. If you truly love this country and its democracy, you simply cannot let Donald Trump back into the White House. Years from now, presidential historians will write how close America came to fascism. Or they won't, because we didn't just come close to fascism, we elected it. And legitimate historians aren't allowed to record history in fascist regimes. That task will fall to some jackbooted thug like either Stephen Miller or the disheveled and equally disgusting Steve Bannon. As Kamala Harris has been saying repeatedly, your vote is your voice. So let your voices be heard loud and clear on Tuesday while your voices and your vote still matter. There is no guarantee that will always be the case. Just looking for a sound clip here, folks. And on that note, let's get to our breaking news for the day. I mentioned the orange dictator's latest idiocy he drooled in an interview with that mother Tucker Carlson. If you missed it, here's what he said.
Then, go a couple of years forward or go now. And I don't blame him for sticking with his daughter, but his daughter is a very dumb individual, very dumb. She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. When the guns are trained on her face.
As I said and asked at the top of the show, is it okay to call him a fascist now? But yeah, it's we liberals who are violent. I mean, just look at the Summer of Love, the George Floyd protests, none of which, I might add, were attempts to overturn an election and erase the will and votes of 81 million Americans. And so, the fallout over Trump's Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden over the weekend continues and escalates unabated. And we're going to delve deeper into that rally in a bit. But there's been much continuing blowback over Trump allowing a quote-unquote comedian to call Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. And even though his right-wing propaganda hate media gave him several opportunities to walk that back, including Fox News' biggest Trump charlatan, Sean Hasn't Any. And listen to how hard-handed he tries to distance and exonerate Trump from his comedian. And yet, listen to the best the orange pus gut could muster in response.
This big event at Madison Square Garden went on for hours. I don't even know if you were there for the whole thing. I don't know what time you got there. I was told and made aware that you had no idea about this comedian who made comments.
I have no idea who he is. Somebody said there was a comedian that joked about Puerto Rico or something, and I have no idea who he was. Never saw him, never heard of him, and don't want to hear of him. But I have no idea. They put a comedian in, which everybody does. You throw comedians in. You don't vet them and go crazy. It's nobody's fault. But somebody said some bad things. Now, what they've done is taken somebody that has nothing to do with the party, has nothing to do with us, said something, and they try and make a big deal. But I don't know who it is. I don't even know who put him in. And I can't imagine it's a big deal. I've done more for Puerto Rico than any president, I think, that's ever been president.
First, no one vetted him. That's a lie. They knew exactly who and what they were getting. Number two, whether or not he was vetted, either personally and or professionally, is immaterial. His actual speech was vetted. In fact, in one of his remarks, he was going to call Kamala Harris the C word, and I don't mean communist. They had him remove that line from his speech. The rest of his speech, however, including the floating island of garbage line, was both approved and loaded into the teleprompter. But you see, Trump's propaganda, right-wing hate media never tells their audience things like this. Second, as to why this situation has not subsided or gone away, did you hear what was missing from that diatribe? Two things. First, a renouncement of that comedian, Tony Hinchcliffe. And second, an apology. If Trump had gotten on top of this and came out the very next day and renounced the comedian and apologized for his racist remark, this incident likely would be over. But instead, as per usual, he refuses to take any responsibility. He says the comedian wasn't vetted when even his speech was vetted, and says it's nobody's fault. And best of all, I have no idea. I have no idea. But as Roy Cohn taught a much younger and still repulsive Trump, don't ever apologize for anything. And so he doesn't, and he didn't. And in this particular case, he's paying a bit of a price we hope this slimy orange bastard will continue to pay from now until the election and on election day itself. And in all honesty, Trump did exactly what he knew his base wanted him to do. They don't want him to apologize. First, they bought into Trump's lie that apologizing is a sign of weakness when it's actually a sign of maturity. Second, they are there for the vitriol and hatred. They're there for the bigotry and ethnic slurs. They thought the comedian's garbage line was funny. Trump would actually stand a better chance of losing a certain portion of his base if he were to apologize. And we should note, the floating island of garbage travesty came after Trump himself called America a garbage can, which exposes the lie Team Trump tried to float as damage control when they said the comedian's remarks did not reflect those of their orange boss. Liars! Trump called America a garbage can. You think he's going to lose any sleep over someone calling Puerto Rico garbage? Of course he wouldn't. This is the same guy who visited Puerto Rico after a devastating hurricane and thought it would be a good look for him to throw out a few rolls of paper towels. That would have actually been a better place for his garbage truck stunt, as in he was ready to pitch in and even drive a garbage truck in order to remove debris and help the island recover. But no, he saves the garbage truck for after he and his comedian call America and Puerto Rico garbage. As they say in so many businesses, timing is everything. In this case, it was nothing. And of course, in that stupid garbage truck farce, we should add, they almost had to call in a crane in order to guide his repulsive, obese body into it. And I mean, if there was any good that came out of that, I thought he looked really good in that orange safety vest he had on. And I hope he liked it. Because if we are a nation who abides by the rule of law, and a nation that holds that no person is above the law, including an already disgraced felon and adjudicated rapist ex-president, orange should be his apparel's new and only color, and for the rest of his miserable, wretched life. And so, when his ridiculous garbage truck stunt bombed spectacularly, Trump decided he needed a distraction. And he concluded the best way to do that would be to say something equally disgusting that didn't involve garbage. And so, this is what his twisted, depraved, woken mind came up with.
I want to protect the women of our country. I want to protect the women. Sir, please don't say that. Why? They said we think it's very inappropriate for you to say. So why? I'm president. I want to protect the women of our country. They said. They said, sir, I just think it's inappropriate for you to say, pay these guys a lot of money. Can you believe it? I said, well, I'm going to do it whether the women like it or not.
First, he's not the president. Second, no, we don't believe you paid these people a lot of money. You may owe them a lot, but no, we don't believe you actually pay them. Third, as far as whether they like it or not, I guess we should expect statements like that from an adjudicated rapist. Fourth, he admits his people to whom he claims to pay a lot of money have told him it's inappropriate to say what he just said, proving once again that Trump doesn't and won't listen to people with more knowledge and common sense than he possesses. That's dangerous. And fifth and finally, this whole premise of him being the great protector of women, which is as laughable a comment as it is dishonest, this isn't the only thing humanity's orange stain does to women, whether they like it or not. Who could forget this memorable moment?
She's still very beautiful. I moved on her, actually. You know, she was down in Palm Beach. I moved on her, and I failed. I'll admit it.
Whoa.
I did try and her. She was married.
That's huge news there.
No, Nancy. Yeah. No, this was marriages. And I moved on her very heavily. In fact, I took her out furniture shopping. She wanted to get some furniture. I said, I'll show you where they have some nice furniture. I took her out furniture. I moved on her like a bitch, but I couldn't get there. And she was married. And all of a sudden, I see her. She's now got the big phony tits and everything. She's totally changed her look.
She's your girl's hot as shit in the purple.
Whoa.
Yes.
Whoa!
Yes, the Donald has scored.
Whoa!
Oh, my man.
I gotta use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the pussy. You can do anything.
And even after that, America elected that to be their president. And what I think was even worse than that was a deposition Trump sat for regarding his E. Jean Carroll rape lawsuit. And this clip is taken from a 48-minute long interview. And as you watch this clip, watch and note Trump's utter disdain and contempt for our judicial system, our legal process, and our rule of law. His whole attitude just reeks of an entitled, self-important pig who feels he's above the law and shouldn't have to answer to the law.
It's true with stars that they can grab women by the...
Well, that's what it's. If you look over the last million years, I guess that's been largely true. Not always, but largely true. Unfortunately or fortunately.
And you consider yourself to be a star?
I think you can say that, yeah. She's accusing me of rape. A woman that I have no idea who she is. It came out of the blue. She's accusing me of rape, of raping her. The worst thing you can do, the worst charge, and you know it's not true too. You're a political operative also. You're a disgrace. But she's accusing me, and so are you, of rape, and it never took place. And I will tell you, I made that statement, and I said, well, it's politically incorrect. She's not my type. And that's 100% true. She's not my type. There's this ridiculous situation that we're doing right now. It's a big fat hoax. She's a liar, and she's a sick person, in my opinion. Really sick. Something wrong with her.
She's not his type. He has also said, she wouldn't have been my first choice, which begs the question, who would be your first choice to rape? Peg? What he just said is that there is a type he would rape. E. Jean Carroll just wasn't that type. Not his first choice. And once again, the old hoax and witch hunt lie. And again, I ask you, this race is close? And by the way, Trump, his right-wing propaganda hate media, and his brain-dead MAGA cult base all repeat Trump's lie and further to proceed to insult Ms. Carroll's looks, as she looked back, or I should say, as she looks now. In the past, I have shown you photos of Ms. Carroll back in the time period when Trump raped her. I'll happily do so again now. Take a look at this photo, these photos. Not only was E. Jean Carroll an attractive young lady, if you look at the photo on the right side of the screen, she bore an uncanny resemblance and is almost the spitting image of Donald Trump's daughter wife, Ivanka Trump, which is likely why Carroll wouldn't be Trump's first choice. But after Ivanka, E. Jean Carroll would have been a close second, I'd be willing to bet. And by the way, that deposition you just heard was shown to the jury in the E. Jean Carroll case. But like Trump, his brain-dead MAGA cult base seemed to be only able to live in the moment and can't perform such simple tasks as figure out or even ask how old E. Jean Carroll was when Trump raped her and what she looked like back then. Trump says she would not have been my first choice, and his bobbleheads nod their heads back and forth with no care or concern for the details or nuances of the true story. But then again, if they had any concern for the truth, they wouldn't be Trump supporters. The next president of the United States commented on Trump's whether they like it or not remark.
I will comment on the former president, Donald Trump's remark about women and whether they like it or not. And Listen, it actually is, I think, very offensive to women in terms of not understanding their agency, their authority, their right, and their ability to make decisions about their own lives, including their own bodies. And this is just the latest on a series of reveals by the former president of how he thinks about women and their agency. Whether he has said, as he has, that women should be punished for their choices, whether he has talked about his pride in taking away a fundamental right from women, whether it be how he has actually created a situation in America where now 1 in 3 women lives in a Trump abortion ban state and has legal restrictions on the right she rightly should have to make decisions about her own body.
Yeah, but getting back to Trump's Nazi clandemic rally at Madison Square Garden over the weekend, most of the attention was focused on the racist comments by the aforementioned comedian, Tony Hinchcliffe, which we covered in detail at the beginning of the week and showed you footage that even the mainstream media hadn't. It's what we do. I've had some other items from that rally in my queue since the weekend that we just haven't gotten to yet. We're going to get to them now because I think they are far more important than a few jokes, even as despicable as those jokes were. And before we leave the aforementioned comedian, remember when Latin American singer and Puerto Rican superstar Nicky Jam endorsed Trump? Just search it here for something, folks. Bear with me. I'll be right back. Latin American singer and Puerto Rican superstar Nicky Jam, he not only endorsed Trump, he then showed up at one of Trump's clandemic rallies. And Trump didn't even know what gender Nicky Jam was.
Latin music superstar Nicky Jam. Do you know Nicky? She's hot. Where's Nicky? Where's Nicky? Thank you, Nicky. Great to be having you here. Now you have to get, oh, look. Come here. Come here. I'm glad he came up.
Yeah, she's hot, isn't she? I mean, that's just basic politics 101. And you'd think this would be a natural no-brainer for Trump. If you're going to call out someone in your audience, make sure you know what's between their legs and whether or not it's hanging or hiding. Well, after Trump's Nazi MSG rally, Nicky Jam unendorsed Trump. This is what he said, quote, "Never in my life did I think a month later a comedian would appear to criticize and talk badly about my Puerto Rico. That's why I am renouncing my support for Donald Trump. Puerto Rico deserves respect," end quote. And you know what they say, when you lose Nicky Jam, it's all over, baby. Who's Nicky Jam again? But back to the Nazi rally. What some of the buzz concerning that rally was, and what I believe should have been the main takeaway, has centered around the granddaddy of Madison Square Garden Nazi rallies, which was held back on February the 20th, 1939. It was organized by the German-American Bund. And just for the record, Bund is German for Confederacy, Association, Army, Confederation. Take your pick. The German-American Bund was a pro-Hitler organization here in the United States before World War II. The group promoted Nazi propaganda here in the U.S., combining Nazi imagery with American patriotic imagery. This 1939 event was attended by over 20,000 American Nazis, while, as I told a caller earlier this week, over 100,000 protested outside the garden. The Bund billed its event, which took place 2 days before George Washington's birthday, as a pro-Americanism rally. And the stage at the event featured a huge portrait of George Washington with swastikas on each side. The featured speaker was one Fritz Julius Kuhn, a German Nazi activist who served as the elected leader of the German-American Bund. He became a naturalized U.S. citizen in 1934, although his citizenship was revoked in 1943 because of his status as a foreign agent of Nazi Germany. Kuhn served prison time for larceny and forgery from 1939 to 1943, and upon release was immediately interned by the federal government as an enemy agent. He was deported in 1945 and later served further prison time in post-war Germany before dying in 1951. Legendary documentary and Emmy Award-winning filmmaker Ken Burns even featured this 1939 Nazi rally in one of his documentaries. And the speaker you will hear in this clip is none other than Fritz Julius Kuhn. And as you listen to his rhetoric, ask yourself of whom exactly he reminds you.
No group was more adamantly opposed to admitting Jewish refugees than the German-American Bund. 20,000 members would fill Madison Square Garden on Washington's birthday. They were led by Fritz Kuhn, a German immigrant who fancied himself the American Führer.
What we are actively fighting for under our charter: first, a social just white Gentile ruled United States. Second, Gentile-controlled labor union free from Jewish Moscow-directed domination.
Other speakers railed against the president, Frank D. Rosenfeld, and his Jew deal.
We only call upon our leaders to awake to the fact that the Jew is as alien in body, mind, and soul as any other non-Aryan, and that he is 1,000 times more dangerous to us than all the others by reason of his parasitic nature.
They are fighting for a Gentile white United States, and the Jews are 1,000 times more dangerous to us than all the others by reason of their parasitic nature. Gee, he's almost making them sound like they're, what is that our fascist says? Oh yeah, vermin who are poisoning the blood of our country. Funny how all these fascists all talk from the same dictionary. Here's another clip from that same Ken Burns film, followed by an eerily similar moment from Orange Hitler's rally.
Great floods of tears for a few 100,000 job-taking so-called poor Jewish refugees, who incidentally in general have more of this world's goods than you or I will ever possess.
Americans sleeping on their own feces on a bench in Central Park. But the illegals, they get whatever they want, don't they? 5-star hotels, cash, probably get Yankee-Dodger tickets tomorrow night.
Job-taking so-called poor Jewish refugees who have more of this world's goods than you and I or will ever possess. And the effingly illegals get whatever they want, don't they? 5-star hotels, cash, tickets to World Series games. And who was that mook anyway? Americans sleeping in their own feces, sleeping on a bench in Central Park. I mean, what a Goomba. And how dare he talk that way about someone who was once known as America's mayor and later became Donald Trump's attorney? If he hadn't gotten involved with the guy you are so shamelessly shilling for at this Nazi rally, he might still be sleeping in a $6 million Manhattan penthouse apartment and might even be able to afford hair dye that doesn't run down the side of his face. Just saying. But do you get it? All you have to do is replace Jews with immigrants, and the German-American Bund's platform then is the same as Adolf Hitler's is today. And you talk about the personification of the phrase, and I'm taking creative license here, those who are too stupid and or brainwashed to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. This is a hallmark of dictators throughout history. Create an enemy, aka the other, then demonize and dehumanize that same enemy you created using vitriolic hate and fear-mongering. Then tell people you're not just the only one who wants to fix it, but you're the only one who can fix it. And besides a political divergence, the only difference between what you just heard in those two clips and what you're hearing today is a different other. And millions of our fellow Americans are simply too stupid and or so horribly disinformed that they're not only willing to repeat history, but they are anxious and excited to do so. It is the exact same playbook every dictator wannabe has used throughout history. And true to form, Trump's brain-dead MAGA cult base will show up 2 days in advance with their Confederate and Nazi flags, just to suck up more of their American Hitler's venom. There had better be more of us who turn out to vote in this election than them. And I believe there are. Although the memory of 2016 still burns a hole in my brain. The bottom line, the German-American anti-Semitic Bund has been replaced by the German-American anti-immigrant Bund. That's the only difference. And not surprisingly, both Bund leaders, Fritz Kuhn and Donald Trump, were admirers of Adolf Hitler. The aforementioned Ken Burns posted something the other day, and this was before Trump's Nazi Klandemic rally at Madison Square Garden. It was as profound as we have come to expect.
The revolution is not over, Dr. Benjamin Rush said in 1787. It remains yet to establish and perfect our new forms of government. Your country demands your services. Born on the outskirts of Philadelphia, Rush warned his fellow countrymen that we each have an obligation to keep our democracy strong, to ensure that the values of liberty and freedom remain alive. His words, like those etched on the old State House, now Independence Hall, bell, have inspired generations of Americans, abolitionists, women's suffrage advocates, civil rights leaders, to give new meaning to our experiment in self-governance. We've confronted hardship and challenges at home and abroad, and our fragile 248-year-old republic has been at risk of unraveling many times before. But as a people, we have come together to protect our democracy and often the freedoms of others around the world. We've rejected those who harbor a blatant disregard for the law, generation after generation, just as we've demanded of our leaders civility, intelligence, and the temperament required to govern in a system based on goodwill and compromise. The Liberty Bell's crack has come to symbolize not weakness but strength, a warning that we must remain committed to the promise of our country. Mistakes can happen in any society. Cracks will emerge, but if we are offered the chance, we cannot allow them to spread. Liberty must not be silenced. There are those in our country who do not believe in freedom. They covet power, power over women's bodies, the power to disenfranchise voters, to destroy our education system, and purge those who disagree with them. Democracy is on the line this election. Go vote this election and let history be your guide.
Ken Burns, folks. He also appeared on a legitimate cable news network a couple days ago and brought up what I just referred to as the political difference between what I just called the German-American anti-Semitic Bund and the German-American anti-immigrant Bund. This clip is at the very least startling, and I want you to listen closely to every word Burns says. This is as profound a clip that I played on the show as any other I can recall. And I apologize to whoever's on hold on the phone. This is a lengthy clip. It's actually a two-parter, but you need to hear it. I'm going to play them back to back.
The rhymes are pretty scary right now. Mark Twain's rhymes of history, they're pretty scary. And I noticed today there's a lot of blowback about using the comparisons between last night and this. But the big difference is that we weren't back then in 1939 in any way in danger of choosing a fascist path. There was a great deal of anti-Semitism, perhaps even more than today, but we weren't on the verge of an election that might, in fact, lead to someone who has at least exhibited fascist tendencies. And so, we could rail about the comparisons, and everything is always different. The rhymes are just that, rhymes. No event has ever repeated itself, ever. But we can take stock of this. I mean, he speaks about the enemy from within. And in some ways, there's an aspect of what he's saying, unintentional, that's true. Lincoln said this, that there was no foreign enemy that could do it. All the armies of Europe, Asia, and Africa could not by force take a drink from the Ohio River or make a track in the Blue Ridge in the trial of 1,000 years. If destruction be our lot, we must ourselves be its author and finisher. As a nation of free men, we will live through all time or die by suicide. He was a young man then. He would go on to preside over the closest we ever came. And I think, I'm the only person who remembers the Walt Kelly strip pogo who said, "We have met the enemy and he is us." So there is a sense that the destruction is going to come from within. What Donald Trump has misunderstood, it's that the movement that he started is the most destructive aspect in this. And that maybe there's an even deeper, more psychological thing, is that one feels very sad at the anger and the hatred and the making of an other, which is why Hitler was successful, is that you had to make an enemy, you had to other somebody. I've been making films about the U.S. for a long time, but I'm making stuff about us. And what I've learned is that there's no them. And what I've learned is that there's no them. And that's, it's a very elemental and simplistic kind of way of looking at it. But anytime you see somebody needing to advance themselves by saying there's a them in our midst, criminal immigrants who, of course, commit crimes at far less average than you and I do. And so we've got really a choice here. It seems, I think you were talking about this too, that we've equalized it in a way. We've liked the horse race for too long. I mean, I've been very disappointed, with the exception of MSNBC, and CNN in some places, and some other outlets of the major groups like the Times. The Post now has lost all credibility. The LA Times, same thing, have made it a horse race and have said, well, she said this once and then said now feels this. And somehow that's equal to, hundreds of lies a day. Well, I was talking to someone just a few minutes ago who thought that people who like Trump love Trump and they're devoted to him, and people who are voting for Kamala Harris just like her. I would take that back. I think there is devotion in the MAGA group. I think there are a lot of Republicans who are incredibly torn right now. We see all the cynicism and the expediency of not making a decision, not raising their hand and say, I'm actually not for this going on. The non-endorsements are themselves endorsements of something too horrible to even contemplate. But she's run an unbelievable campaign. We didn't know her in a way at all. And now I remember the delight in 2008 in watching Obama sort of but over a year and a half, almost 2 years, being able to define himself in good times and bad in front of the American people. And this is the Sandy Koufax of a presidential campaign. She is throwing strikes. Everybody knows what's coming, and they still can't hit it. And it's been one of the more impressive things. So I am wholeheartedly a white guy for Kamala Harris.
Wow. Just wow. We are so used to hearing diatribes from the Orange Manchurian crybaby, wherein every word is a lie. How refreshing is it to listen to someone like Ken Burns, wherein every word is not only the God's truth, but the historically corroborated truth. And Ken Burns was always a favorite of the right because of his focus on the American military. I suspect they'll now turn on him, just like they've turned on our military. 221-7283 is our call-in number here at the station, folks. If you want to chat, got a few minutes left. That's area code 702-221-SAVE as in Save Our Democracy. To the phones we charged with vim and vigor, and we'll start with Big Bad John. You're first. Thanks for calling.
Hey, Doug. Everybody
John.
knows that the bold and brilliant Forrest told us well before any national media picked up on it that Trump is in trouble in Pennsylvania. And boy, that whiny little bitch, he's already whining. So you know he's losing. If he's winning, he's not going to be whining like the orange bitch he is.
Yeah, not only that, John, he's filed a lawsuit in one of the counties in Pennsylvania already.
Yeah, they're coming. This is going to be in litigation for a long time. And if those scumbags, those partisan hacks called the Supreme Court, those hacks, those partisan scumbags destroy America, there must be a revolution. But, Doug, you absolutely nailed it today. Like, boys and girls, if you're an immigrant, if you're a Mexican to Donald Trump, you're an effing Mexican. If you're a Puerto Rican, you're garbage. If you're a black person, he's used the N-word to describe you multiple times. And what really is, I think, striking today, one other thing. If you're a woman, you're a piece of meat and he can just grab you whenever he feels like it. And you don't have the right to control your body. He wants the right to tell you what you have to do with your body. But today, the headline today really is Liz Cheney.
Yeah.
If you're a white person and you don't have any pigmentation in your skin and you somehow feel superior to those that do, boys and girls, by the way, if you disagree with Donald Trump, he thinks he should be able to turn a firing squad on you. So if you're a white person and you're a scumbag who still supports this guy, what's up, JD, and your alcoholic rump swab Gary, and still support this guy, at some point you've got to realize, it's someone in my family is gonna cross Donald Trump. So yeah, I'm not going to agree with him on everything. And as soon as you disagree with him, he changes his tune. It's an authoritarian, dictatorial, military firing squad that needs to be trained on you and take you out. So what the hell is going on? This is the United States of America. The Constitution is the greatest document ever written, and this guy wants to destroy it. Wake up, boys and girls.
I hear you, Big John. I appreciate you calling. I'm going to squeeze one more in before we get out of here for the week. Thanks for your call. Forrest, you got the last word. Thanks for calling.
I'll try to make it real short. Pennsylvania is the key. Early actual voting shows that Kamala's up by at least 24% in Pennsylvania, minimum. And Nevada is another interesting state. Check your email. I go into great detail as to why Kamala will take Nevada, and maybe you can talk about it on Monday. Anyway, have a great show and have a great weekend, Doug.
You do the same, Forrest. Take care. Appreciate your call. Yeah, folks, we'll get to that because Nevada's funny this year. I heard a long dissertation last night as to how the demographic has changed in Nevada. And they were talking in particular about the Latino vote. And the one thing that stuck in my craw, the person that was talking was saying, well, Latinos have started to move away from Democrats because they really got hit during COVID. Okay, and who was it who homicidally mishandled COVID and lied to you and said it was the flu, the Kung flu, be gone by Easter? So if you were hit hard by COVID and that's somehow taking you away from Democrats, you need to have a bit of self-reflection. You need to sit down and have some self-reflection because that's just not right. If you have COVID resentment, you don't direct them towards Democrats. Democrats helped get us out of it. Trump prolonged it. The Brookings Institute, I think it's called, which is the most centrist think tank we have here in this country, said that if Donald Trump had handled the COVID crisis better, there were 400,000 Americans who wouldn't have died. And that's from a nonpartisan centrist institute. So if you resent what happened to you in COVID, that's fine. We all do. But point your finger in the correct direction, and it ain't towards Democrats. Anyhow, folks, I got to run. It's been a slice, been a great week. Great to have you all here. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you calling. We'll do this all over again next week, starting on Monday, hopefully with you. Until then, take care.
Yo, what's up? This your boy, comedian Spank E for 107.1 FM AM 14.